What's going on, you guys? It's Cody Steck. Welcome back to another video. This is going to be one of my favorite videos that I think I make all year because it gives you such a good overview of what it's like to live here in Salt Lake City, Utah. There's a good chance that if you're making a move from another state like California, New York, Boston, even out of the country, there's a good chance you're coming here to Utah for the opportunities that we have, but also to get into a better cost of living situation in a cheaper state. We're going to be talking about cost of living figures, everything you need to know from groceries to taxes to housing. We're going to talk about it all here today, and I'm really excited about that. So as we jump into things, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Over 85% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. You want to make sure you do this so you can stay up to date on everything you need to know about living, eating, sleeping, working, and playing here along the Wasatch Front. Also, if you're thinking about making that move here to Salt Lake, make sure to get in touch with me. I've had people from all across the world reach out saying, Cody, I'm moving to your area. What do I need to know about moving there? Can you help me? And I always say yes. I love it when I hear from you guys. My information's here on the screen. Call, text, or email anytime. And with that said, let's jump into things. All right, so as we go into this, we're going to talk about some of the daily expenses that you're going to have for cost of living. This is going to cover things like gas, groceries, utilities, everything like that for Salt Lake City and for the surrounding areas as well. What I'm going to be talking about here is mostly going to pertain to the Wasatch Front. And when I say Wasatch Front, I should just clarify that real quick because a lot of people have questions. They say, hey, what are you talking about when you say that? The Wasatch Front is basically everything on the front of the Wasatch Mountains here in the Valley of Salt Lake, but also to the north and to the south. So if you look at a map, you're going to see that Salt Lake kind of sits right in the middle of the Wasatch Front, and then you've got cities to the north and cities to the south as well. So this kind of covers everything here. This is about where, I don't know, probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the population of Utah actually lives, and so it's the most populous part here in the town, or here in the state, and it's probably the area that you're looking to move to as well. So we're going to cover all of that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the home prices and rent amounts for, again, the Wasatch Front here. So we're going to talk about that, which is probably the part that you really want to know about because we've seen some massive changes there. So with that said, let's jump into number one. We're going to talk about gas. Just get it right out of the way. What does gas cost? What's a gallon of gas cost here in Utah? Well, right now, as of the time of this recording, gas is ranging from about $2.20 for just the very basic gas up to about $2.50 for premium gas. This has been in this range for at least the last probably couple of years, I would say. You know, it always seems to fluctuate. It goes up, it goes down, kind of stays flat. Not a lot of people are driving right now, and so gas is, you know, there's a lot of gas out there that these oil companies are trying to sell, and so you would think that gas would kind of come down just because people aren't driving as much due to everything going on in the world, but here we are. You know, gas is at that amount. It does seem to be a little bit higher in other areas like California or New York or, you know, other cities. It does seem to be higher when you get to the coast, but here in Utah, yeah, you can plan on about $2.20 to $2.50 for a gallon of gas. Next, I want to talk about groceries. Groceries is going to be one of those things that kind of varies, right? Groceries does depend on what type of groceries you actually buy. You've got stuff that's at the very low end, and then you've got stuff that's way overpriced where you're paying $15 for a bag of chips, right? So it depends on, you know, of course, what you're going to buy. Of course, that's up to you. The thing that I want to talk about here, though, is that groceries on average are about 7% less. I'm pulling this information from bestplaces.net. They've done some research and said, hey, on average in Utah, groceries cost about 7%, give or take a little bit compared to the US average. Now, that actually is a good thing, but again, like I said, keep in mind that the grocery cost is going to vary based on what you actually buy, right? You can buy cheap stuff, you can buy expensive stuff. It just depends on your personal taste. Overall, we're a little bit cheaper than the national average. Next, let's talk about health insurance. Now, we're going to talk about health insurance, and this is a, you know, touchy subject, right? Because health insurance is one of those things that I think a lot of people don't understand. I don't even fully understand it. You know, it's one of those such a complicated issue, and you know, it seems like no matter what with health insurance, you always end up paying way more than you think you should. I know that here in Utah, health insurance can be a little bit more on the pricey side, at least from what I've seen and heard compared to other states. For me personally, for my family, my wife, myself, and my kid, we pay about $600 a month for our health insurance plan. I think we've got a pretty good plan because it's worth it for us, but at the same time, you know, I know that is, you know, could be expensive for some people. It could be cheap for other people as well. It just totally depends on the plan that you've got. So there are a little variable, you know, a lot of variables there. I don't mean to be super ambiguous about this. It's just hard for me to kind of nail it down and compare it to other areas. All right, next up, let's talk a little bit about utilities. Going back to bestplaces.net, they say that Utah utilities are on average about 5% less than what you're gonna pay in other areas. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that like when you move to here to Utah, I think a lot of people are surprised by the fact that, look, we do have colder winters and we do have hot summers. It's very dry here, so it does get up into like the 90 to 100 degree range in the summer. And then in the winters, you know, we're sitting like roughly in the 20s, maybe 30s on a warm day, or even down into the teens overnight when it's a colder weather. So we do have, you know, heating and cooling expenses. You're going to be using the AC in the summer. You're going to be using the heat in the winter. And, you know, these are kind of the two drivers of utility costs here in Utah. So on average, we're about 5% less than what you would pay in the rest of the United States. For these utilities, I'm actually going to give you the numbers that I pay personally, because I think this will help give you some reference as to like what you can expect to pay. It will vary kind of based on where you're at, how much you use, but just for a general sense, I think this will help you. So I live in about a 3,500 square foot home, you know, a little bit on the big side, but like fairly average for what you find here in Utah. And for my bills, for my power bill, I pay about $70 in the winter, and it goes up to about $250 in the middle of the summer. One, because it's hot, but also two, I actually have an electric vehicle, so they charge that at home. So that's honestly probably about $75 of that cost goes to charge my electric vehicle, because I'm not paying for gas, right? So it kind of offsets that. So $250 in the summer for myself. Honestly, I think for an equivalent size home, you'd probably expect to pay anywhere from about $150 to $200, again, depending on how much you use the cooling that you have in the house. Next, let's talk about gas. Gas in the for my gas bill in the summer, it's super low. I mean, really, the only thing you use gas for in the summer is to heat your water heater, so you've got hot water. So I only pay about $20 in the summer, and that's it. In the winter, it does go up a little bit. I pay about $125. We do use natural gas for most of our heating systems here. Everybody, almost everybody is going to have a furnace or forced air that's going to heat the air and then blow it throughout the home. That's going to be the most common type of heating, but of course we do have you know, some boiler systems and things like that, but we do use natural gas for that. And yeah, you can expect to pay about $125 in the winter to heat your home or heat an equivalent size home such as the one that I have. So that's that. Water. Let's talk about water bill. So obviously you've got water to like wash your dishes, take a shower, flush the toilet, all that stuff. And then in the summer, you are going to have to water the grass. I know I talked to a lot of people coming from other areas who say, you know, hey, it's so humid here. We get so much rain. We don't ever have to, you know, we don't have sprinklers. Like people just don't have sprinklers. But here in Utah, we definitely need sprinklers. It doesn't rain enough and it gets hot and dry enough that you do have to water the grass in order to keep it green. So your water bills are going to be more expensive in the summer. In the summer, I pay about $100 to $110 per month on average. I like to keep my yard, you know, nice and green, so it's worth it for the little bit extra money for me personally. So my water bill is a little bit higher. I think you could probably get that down under 100 if you're a little bit more conservative. Again, it depends on how much you use and how big your property is, how many sprinklers you've got going. In the winter, you are going to have a water bill of, you know, probably about $50 to $60. That kind of covers just the water that you use inside the home to do laundry, wash the dishes, flush the toilet, take a shower, take a bath, all that type of stuff, right? So last but not least, you've got garbage. Garbage is about $15 a month. Nothing too surprising there. I think that's probably pretty average across the board. But yeah, plan on about $15 a month for garbage. Last but not least, let's talk about internet and cable. Internet and cable, it's going to be about $70 to $100 a month for these services. You know, internet, I pay about $80 a month because I have a fast plan. I do a lot of stuff online, so I need the higher internet speeds. You can get it down into the 50 range, but yeah, generally speaking, I mean, I'm sure most of you guys have cable, or you've got Hulu or Netflix or these other streaming services. So I'm sure you've already got those things, so you probably already know what the cost is. Here in Utah, yeah, internet is about $50, $60. Cable, I'm guessing, I think you can get like combo packages, to be totally honest. I don't have cable, so I haven't looked at the prices of that individually in quite some time. But I do think you can get like combination packages to keep it all under $100 for that. So next up on our list, we're going to talk about taxes. Now, taxes is one of those things. I'm not a tax professional. I'm just giving you kind of a general sense, just so you can get some quick information about kind of what to plan on and compare it to what you're paying in the current place that you're living. Here in Utah, we have generally about a 5% flat income tax rate. So I know that in California, it goes all the way up to 13.3% for income tax. Other states, such as like Nevada or Texas, don't have any income tax at all. So this may be a difference for you, but here in Utah, it's a flat 5%. Income tax tax as of right now. That could change. The other things I want to mention on taxes is that when it comes to like sales tax and grocery tax, they do split these out. You pay a little bit less tax on groceries, and it varies, right? It varies by the city and it varies by the county that you live in. It's kind of left up to those cities and counties as to what they want to charge. So here in Utah, on average, you're going to pay about 3% sales tax for groceries, and you're going to pay about 7.25% combined sales tax on anything else. So if you go buy, a toy for your kid, you're going to pay about 7.25% in sales tax for that item. Again, the bigger cities are generally a little bit higher on that range, and the rural counties and cities are a little bit cheaper. All right, guys, now that we've got all of that out of the way, stay with me here because we're going to get into some of the good stuff here that you're definitely going to want to know about when it comes to housing. This is where we've seen the biggest changes in the cost of living here in Utah. It is going up, so I know that for some of you coming from cheaper areas, this could be a surprise. It could be hard to get into the market. It could be hard to get into a home, but I know that for a lot of people, coming from California or New York, some of these more expensive areas, you might be looking at what we have to offer here, and you might be saying to yourself, hey, that's still extremely cheap compared to what I'm used to, right? So it's going to be good for some people. It's going to be bad for other people, but I'm just going to kind of give you the facts here and let you decide, again, this is all information for you to kind of figure out if you want to make a move here to Utah. So let's jump into it. All right, first we're going to talk about rent, and then we'll talk about home prices. So rent is going up. We have seen rental increases. I talked to my sister-in-law, who's actually a property manager here in the area. She's a regional manager for a number of different townhomes and apartments in the area. And I thought, hey, she's going to be the perfect person to actually talk to about, what type of rent increases are we seeing across the board when it comes to the multifamily space, is kind of what they call that space, because that's kind of what drives the market, right? The majority of renters live in apartments or even in townhomes, and that's kind of what drives the rental market overall. So I wanted to talk to her and say, hey, what are we seeing? She said, well, honestly, every time somebody renews, we're generally increasing the rent by about 5%. Recently, it's been a little bit lower. It's been about 3%, which is a little bit surprising because, if you think 5%, if you're paying, let's say, $1,300 a month, that means your rent is going from like $1,300 to roughly $1,370, give or take a little bit. And so that's a pretty big increase, for just 1 year, $1,300 to $1,370, that's a big increase in just 1 year, at least in my opinion. So that kind of compounds, right? You got to keep up with inflation, and that's just kind of life, but at the same time, looking at that, that's a big jump. So it has been a little bit cheaper. We were seeing, she said, hey, right now we're kind of seeing about 3%. And I think that that's also because they just have so many people coming and going, they can kind of just continue to increase rents and continue to increase their numbers over time. So rents are going up, and a general 2-bedroom apartment is going to cost you about $1,300 to $1,350 on average. I just took a middle of the pack place and looked at what rents are and what you can get one for right now. That's going to be about $1,300 to $1,350, and then you're gonna have some other fees on top of that. Of course, you've still got all your utilities. They might have like a servicing fee. They might have all these other dumb little fees, but just the base rent is gonna be about in that range for a middle of the pack place. Not a terrible neighborhood, not a great neighborhood, just kind of middle of the pack. Still nice neighborhood compared to what you may be used to, but. Your average 3-bedroom apartment is going to be about $1,500 to $1,600, again, for a middle of the pack apartment. And when it comes to rent, yes, I will say that, hey, look, you can rent a place for cheaper in a less desirable neighborhood, or you can go to a really nice neighborhood and rent something for more expensive. It does range. Apartments, I have seen 2 bedrooms as low as like $1,000, maybe $1,100, but that might not be the best neighborhood. I have seen 2-bedroom apartments for $2,000, $2,500 a month in these nicer neighborhoods, and with a lot of amenities and features. So it does range, but kind of middle of the pack, $1,300 to $1,350 for 2 bedrooms, $1,500 to $1,600 for a 3-bedroom. All right, guys. So as we jump into the cost of living for buying and selling real estate here in Utah, first, give me a thumbs up here on the video if you're enjoying this content. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, helps me reach more people just like yourself, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. That said, let's jump into housing. So to be honest with you guys, the Utah real estate market has been on an absolute tear over the past year. We've seen prices increase about 16% on single family homes alone, going from a median price of about $375,000 to $434,000 in just the last year. The market's been on an absolute tear, and I think this is caused by a couple of different reasons. One, there's a lot of people moving into the state. They're moving from wherever they might be living. They're coming into the state and they're saying, I need to buy a house in Utah. A lot of these people are coming from mortgage expensive areas, and so they're able to pay more for the home that they're getting here in Utah. Also, we've seen a decrease in inventory in the market. I think because of the pandemic and everything we saw in 2020, there was a lot of people who just said, hey, I'm not going to move. It doesn't make sense. I don't want people in my house. I don't want people coming through looking at my home. I don't have anywhere to go. And so this has kind of really pushed inventory levels down compared to what we normally see. Third, I want to mention that, look, new construction is also backed up. We're seeing material shortages when it comes to supplies for like concrete, framing, windows, roofing. Everything's like backed up right now. And so builders are not able to build as quickly as they normally are. So with all these delays, everybody's kind of like scrambling to just keep things moving, and it is causing less inventory, but there is more demand, and that's really what's driving the cost of housing up here along the Wasatch Front. So a 16% increase, like I said, from 375 to 434. This is absolutely crazy. Usually we only see an appreciation of about 3%. That's at least what they say is like the healthy amount, right? It kind of goes with inflation over the years. But right now, with interest rates so low, with a lot of people moving into the state, and with just so much demand pushing the market, this is what's causing the prices to increase rapidly. And it will also say that when it comes to condos and townhomes for Davis County, Salt Lake County, Utah County, again, here along the Wasatch Front, we saw that they were at about $276,000 for the median price last year, and this is in December of 2019. And I'm pulling that information, looking at December of 2020, prices increased to $300,000, which is roughly an 8.7% increase over the last 12 months as of the time of this recording. So we saw 8.7% increase on condos and townhomes, and 16% when it comes to single family homes. So what are my opinions when it comes to the housing here in Utah? Well, honestly, I think it's just going to continue going up. I don't think we're going to see a major crash anytime soon. That's just my personal opinion. I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I would definitely tell you guys. I would hook you up. I'd tell you what I know. But unfortunately, I don't have that crystal ball. So I'm just kind of sharing my own personal opinion as to what I'm seeing spending every single day in the real estate market here. I think honestly, prices will continue to rise. I think even though we've seen such a big increase in just the past year, I think they're going to continue going up. Some of the reasons that I think the prices will continue going up: number one, you've still got a ton of demand in the market. There's a lot of people moving here and a lot of people who want to buy homes. Number two, interest rates are still extremely low. When you've got low interest rates, it gets cheaper and cheaper to borrow money. And so this does push the prices up because people can qualify for more and they're going to pay less on their monthly payment. Number three, builders are still backed up. They're trying to keep things moving, but they're not able to keep up with the demand that's out there. And number four, we're still seeing a lot of low inventory in the market. People are just not deciding to move. People are not making that move up. People are not moving around. And so it's just causing a shortage of available properties here in the market. So even though we've seen a big increase in just the past year, we've been increasing steadily over the past couple of years. Over the past like 5 or 6 years, actually, it's been increasing pretty rapidly. But over this last year, we saw massive gains in the appreciation that we saw in the market. And like I said, to be honest, in my opinion, I think it's going to continue going up. So if you're already in the market, if you've already bought something, you're probably sitting in a pretty good spot where your place is going to be worth more in a couple of years. If you're not yet in the market, my opinion, I would say jump in as soon as you can. Lock something in with a new construction builder. Get into the market as soon as possible. A lot of people I talk to say, hey, we want to rent first and then buy something a year later. That's okay. That totally works. I get it. If that works for your situation, you're not sure you're going to stay here, or you're not sure if you can afford something or whatever, that's totally okay. Buying is not for everybody, but if it is on your horizon, I would say maybe just look at it a little bit closer, see if you can make something work now, and just get into the market. Use it as an investment opportunity to basically buy a home now and kind of ride that appreciation up. I also think that, if we do see a big economic turnaround, if there's a recession, if there's inflation, if there's, World War VI, whatever happens out there, I do think that, Utah is going to be able to weather that storm. We've got a ton of opportunity here. We've got a lot of amenities and features pulling people into the state with all of our beautiful scenery, all of the outdoor recreation, basically just everything we talk about here on the channel all the time. And so I think, with limited land left to build, people are going further and further out, and housing will just continue going up. So without rambling on any further, thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up here on the video if you enjoyed this content. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I talk about all things you need to know about working, eating, sleeping, living, and playing here along the Wasatch Front. That includes cities like Salt Lake City, Provo, Lehi, Saratoga Springs, Tooele, Park City, Ogden, Bountiful, Kaysville, everywhere in between. I work all of those entire areas, and I love covering what you need to know about living here. Also, don't forget to reach out to me if you're making that move here to Salt Lake City. Call me, text me, or email me. I absolutely love it when you guys reach out, and I cannot wait to hear from you as well. I'd love to help make your relocation here to Utah a successful one, and I can't wait to hear from you. With that said, guys, I will catch you in the next one.